Back to another episode of the House Husband Diaries. As always, I am your host, Carter C. And today we are continuing the series That Time I Was. And this one is that time that I worked in landscape maintenance. After the nonprofit went under, and I was talking to my wife yesterday about she was asking me what I was recording and how it was going and everything, and I told her that I had I had previously recorded an episode about when I was in construction, and she said, "Oh, did you tell that story about shaving your chest?" And I said, "No, because I forgot about that, and I don't think of that when I think of my time working in construction." And she goes, "Oh my gosh, like that. I've heard that story so many times, and it's hilarious. You should tell that story." So even though today's episode is about that time I worked in landscape maintenance, after all of that, I'm throwing it back a couple of episodes to that time I worked construction and telling you a story about that time I worked construction and shaved my chest. But I didn't shave my chest because it had nothing to do with construction. So what happened was I had this roommate, and he was one of the most interesting roommates I've had. And I don't mean he was interesting because he was intelligent and he had interesting hobbies. I mean, he was just, he was one of the most self-absorbed, just idiots who, and I mean that, like, I'm not going to say his name, if he sees this or people know this kind of stuff about him, and they figure out who it is, that's fine. But he was just he's not my kind of person. We weren't that great friends. He was like, I was like, "Where do you want to go eat?" His roommate's about to eat, and he was like, "Hooters." And I'm like, no offense if y'all go to Hooters all the time, but that's like when I go out to eat, I'm not thinking Hooters. So, anywho, he got this job and then just he had his girlfriend write emails to his boss because he couldn't write, like, he was just basically inept. But so he had all these people in his life doing things for him, and it was absolutely the most insane. What was that thing called that Bernie Madoff? Like a Ponzi scheme. I mean, it was like an intellectual Ponzi scheme. So some of you may say he was pretty intelligent for being able to manipulate people, but anyway, not my kind of guy. Well, it was an interesting time when we were roommates. So he was all about the ladies and trying to pick up ladies and all this stuff. So at the time I was single, and he said that you got to shave your chest because the ladies like it smooth, and I have a decent patch of chest hair now, or then I did too. So, I was single. We lived in a town of like 950 people, something like that. It was like under 1,000 people. There weren't a whole lot of options. The county had like 11,000 people at the time. It was out, it was out in the boonies, and I loved that place. And I try to go back and go there once a year at least to go fishing. Anyway, there weren't a whole lot of options, and there were a number of guys, so of lady options. So it was, competition was fierce. It was a very interesting time. This guy was, I was like, whatever. I'm in my, late 20s, 27-ish or so, mid to late 20s. Might as well try new things, I'm still single. I'm still trying to figure out what I'm doing with my life professionally. Maybe I was like 25, 26, mid-20s. And whatever, this guy's, he works out, and he was trying to, he was pretty confident that he could pick up chicks. So I was like, might as well try. So I was in the shower, and I started to shave. So I shaved one boob. I made it. I was like, hey, let me just try and see how this works. So I shaved all the hair off of one boob, and then I got out of the shower dripping wet, and I looked in the mirror just to see what it would look like, and it looked like I looked like I was 12 years old because I hadn't been working out, so I had like no pectoral definition. It was just like it wasn't a man boob because I didn't have like a whole bunch of fat or anything that made it stick out. It was just sort of like, it was like a flat chest. It wasn't attractive is what I'm trying to say. So I'm left with this scenario or this like choice of, well, I can't leave it like this, right? Because I can't just have like one shaved boob and one hairy boob, right? Like if I end up meeting a girl and things progress and my shirt comes off, you sure as hell can't just like that'll end whatever date, and whatever future dates you may have with a girl. So I was like, well, I'm stuck because it looks terrible. That one boob, experiment just it's terrible. So I was like, well, I'm already there, so I've got to shave the other boob. So the problem is I also have hair down here, but it's not like thick. It's just there's hair and it's darker. So the problem was I have chest hair here, and then I've got this chest six pack hair, and that's why you can't see my six pack because it's just hair. No, that's not true. But so anyway, I've got this line and this line. So there's like a square that I've shaved off here. And then I was like, okay, so then I get back in the shower. I'm like, I've got to shave my other boob. So I shave my other boob, and then I have this line across here where the hair down here is. And I get out of the shower because now I'm like, this is terrible. Like, I don't, So I look and I'm like, that is so awkward. But at the same time, I can't I'm not going to keep shaving. Like, it's just, like, that was a terrible experiment. I did it. I can now say I tried it and I'll never do it again, and it was horrible. It's not my thing. So I'm gonna cut my losses. I'm gonna shave both boobs. It'll grow back, and we'll move on. So this is the same time period of, if you remember that story, if you watched all the way to the end of that time I was a carpenter and worked construction, when I got into an argument with a painter for wearing a pink shirt. Well, he was one of the people on the job site that noticed as I would be on job sites and I would be like scratching my chest, and people would be like, hey, are you okay? Like, you get like mosquito bites or something? And I'd be like, oh no. And they were like, you're scratching your chest a fair amount. Well, it itches like crazy when it grows back. And I'm on a construction site wearing pink polos. I can't also tell them that I shaved my boobs, the upper half of my chest, because a roommate of mine told me it would help me pick up chicks, right? Like, can't do that. So I just had to play it off for like a month as it grew back. It was terrible. One of the worst decisions I've ever made in my life. Anywho, so that time I shaved my chest when I worked in construction. There you go. But this episode is about that time that I worked landscape maintenance. So this is after the nonprofit. I'm like 30, 31, and I'm single again, and I'm trying to make it back to. I'm trying to woo my ex-girlfriend back, and so I decide I need a job. I've got this debt that I've worked up trying to save the world, and people have been telling me to work at restaurants or do whatever to try to make some money, and I just said, look, like, I don't know. And so a friend told me, hey, I've got a friend, he owns a landscape maintenance company. They're always looking for people. They just need people to show up. You can do the work. What about it? So I said, hey, here's my resume. Like, I just need a job. I need to make some money. I'll work 40, 50, 60 hours a week. It doesn't bother me. Whatever work you have, I'll be happy to work and get paid for it. So he said, okay. So I started out as a crew member. I'm like 30, 31 years old, college degree, and I'm just mowing grass, blowing leaves, whatever. Like, it's not where you envision yourself when you go to college, and it's certainly not where my parents had envisioned me at age 30. But I had a purpose. I needed to make money because I needed to save money so that I could move 1,000 miles and try to woo my girlfriend back without her knowing. So that's what kept me going. was this I had a greater purpose. I was going to show up, I was going to do my work, I was going to try to move up, and if I could help the company while I was pursuing what I needed to do, awesome. So at the time, the son of the owner of this company was running. The owner was letting the son do it. The son was like in his early 20s, didn't go to college, maybe had like a year or two of experience in college. But he had just basically just taken this business from his dad because he was like a wheeler and a dealer. He had no experience, but he would just lie. He would say whatever. He was a jerk. If you're watching this, you know who you are. Like, you treated people like crap. So he was completely self-absorbed. He treated everybody like second-class citizens. He sucked up to anybody he wanted to try to get their business, you know. But then he would just, behind the scenes, he would talk just total trash about him. It was not a very, he wasn't somebody I wanted to hang out with. You know what I mean? So I'm sitting there doing my work, getting talked down to by somebody who's, I don't know, 8 years younger than I am. But whatever, it's his daddy's business. And working my way up in the company, became a crew leader, was in charge of some, you know, different stuff, started going to meetings with real estate stuff, and, you know, started trying to maybe make some inroads into getting new contracts and stuff for the business. So I learned a lot. It was a good time. But I've got two stories. So I was helping. We had this big spread out apartment complex, or I don't really know. It was much different. It wasn't a high rise. It was like all single story, and there were a couple of 2-story buildings within this big, massive land area complex. And we had to put pine straw. And there were so many bales of pine straw. They had done this for a number of years, so they knew how much pine straw. So they just take an 18-wheeler and they drive it to the back of the property and park it, just the 18-wheeler, like the back of the 18-wheeler, just the trailer. And it's full of pine straw. And so what we would do is we would drive to that area, load up pine straw, and then drive all the way around, and then, you know, put out the bales, and then people would go and put the pine straw. Well, we got bored. And so I don't remember who it was me, or if it was, I think it was a couple of other guys. There were a couple of other crew leaders, and they were like, hey, look what we made, because they were, you know, pulling all the bales out of the back of the truck. And they said they had made like an ice cave, like an igloo, out of these pine straw bales, because they were packed so tightly inside the trailer, that they had made a tunnel in the trailer through all of these bales of pine straw. They made a tunnel, and then you go over here. So they made a tunnel, and then they opened it up in the middle of the trailer, to where you could see the top of the trailer, and it was like its own little hut. It was really fun. I mean, you know, what are you going to do? But it basically made like a pine straw igloo, pine straw bale igloo, and you couldn't really see in there. It was really dark. You go back, and it's just in this metal trailer. So I turned to talk to some of the guys or say something, and apparently there was a piece of pine straw sticking out of a bale of pine straw. And as I turned, it stuck me square in the eye, right in the white part of the eye. Boom, in between the iris, like the, you know, where you see out of, and the nose. And I pull out, I go, oh, I pull out, and the pine straw stuck in my eye. And as I pull out, it's just sitting there, and I turn around and I go, oh my God, I've got a piece of pine straw sticking in my eye. And the guys are just sitting there and they're like, holy shit, what do we do? And I'm like, can I just pull it out? And my eye is just pouring water. I mean, it is not happy at all. So I get out of the trailer and go, you know, hop down and look at the side view mirror of the truck, of one of the trucks we had over there. And you could see where it's like poked into the eye and the white part, and there was a little red, and then it was just, oh my God, it was so bad. So I say that now, it's a terrible story. It's kind of funny, but my wife works with eyes, and that's what she does. And so it's pretty ridiculous now that I had that issue. And I was like, well, you know, it would have been better if I had known you then, or if we had been married then, and you had been, you know, a practicing eye surgeon, because But good thing is, it didn't poke me in the eye. Didn't cause any lasting eye damage. It was just kind of it's one of those anecdotes, one of those stories of crazy things that happen to you when you're doing odd jobs. And the last story that I'll tell, and this will be the last one, would be a good one to end on for this episode, is it got kind of slow during the winter months. Obviously, things don't grow as fast, and so being kind of the anal retentive person that I am, slightly OCD, I like organization. And on the property where all the trucks and everything were kept was a nursery, and so you had different shrubs and different trees and different flowers and stuff. And so as you would do new buildings or new houses or whatever that people would want stuff to plant, we would take these trees and we'd sell them, and then we would go plant them and stuff. Well, at some point, I guess it was all organized, but people had brought stuff back and changed and moved things around and didn't plant as much as they needed. I don't know. Anyway, it was all messed up. So I said, well, I need the money, and we don't have work, but like to go out and mow grass or blow. Like we didn't have, as much to do. And I don't know what the situation was. I guess we just didn't have, contracts would go down in the winter. So I said, can I just organize the nursery for you? And he was like, yeah, that needs to be done. I think he probably mentioned it earlier, and that's why I thought of it. So I was like, I would love to do that. I would love to take some time, like a day or so, I don't know, half a day, and just organize everything. So in the middle of this nursery is this ginormous pine tree. I mean, it's huge. It's a couple feet across, a number of feet around. Probably, I couldn't get all my arm around, grab my hands around this big trunk. And there was this ivy growing up it. And I was like, that's just so weird. Like, did you just think that a landscape maintenance guy would kind of like keep his trees clean, not have ivy? And I was like, well, maybe he likes ivy and it's just crawling up the tree. And it's just kind of, he likes it because he likes plants, because he runs a landscape maintenance company. So I'm like going back and forth around this tree, and the ivy's hanging off, and it's like slapping me in the face. And I finally am like, this is annoying because I'm carrying stuff. I've got all these big heavy pots and stuff that I'm carrying, all these plants, these bushes, these trees, different things, all back and forth, organizing everything, make it look all great. And so I'm like, this is crazy because this ivy is falling off the tree, and it's just getting all in my way, and it's, rubbing all over me. So I just grabbed some of it, and I'm like pulling it down, and I'm like, this is just really, I'm not going to get rid of all of it because he may like it, but I'm just going to like get rid of some of it. And I was just kind of like, just whatever, wiping my hands and sweating and stuff. So, get everything organized, finish my day's work, and I go home, and I'm like, why do I have these like red streaks on my face? And then I go take my shirt off to go shower, and I have like streaks on my ribs, and then it starts to itch like crazy. And I talked to the guy the next day as it's like growing on my face and my chest, and I'm like, that nursery? And he looks at my face, he's like, well, what happened to you? And I'm like, the nursery yesterday. He was like, you didn't go by that tree, did you? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, that's poison ivy. And I was like, you run a landscape maintenance company. Why would you have a tree with poison ivy growing all over it in the middle of your nursery? Like, he was like, well, how about you just recognize it, that that's what it was, and you just walk around it? What? Like, are you kidding me? Am I the only one that thinks that's the dumbest thing ever? Why would you not spray that and kill it or pull it off or whatever? Like, what's it? I guess he wants it as a joke, maybe, right? And so all of us that worked for him would just assume that it wasn't, and then he would just laugh at all of us every time we ran by it and got poison ivy until we learned. I don't know what the deal is, but anyway, that was my time. That time that I worked landscape maintenance, and I threw in a bonus. That time that I worked in construction, story. So I hope you like these stories. Comment, like, subscribe, let me know. I will continue on with more of my job history with fun stories from all of the heartache and adventures that I've had. So thanks so much for watching the House Husband Diaries. I will talk to you in the next episode. Have a great day.